Let's all not forget the afternoon we all became diehard Coventry fans.
Yes.
When football was robbed of like the ultimate fairy tale because of a really controversial VAR decision.
Yeah.
And that would only be happening tenfold in the women's game.
Yeah. So there's a few things that have kind of come across the Screamers' radar this week that we wanted to chat about in a bit more in-depth manner than on the WSL Community Notice Board.
At the end of Arsenal-Chelsea in her press conference, in her mix zone interview, Renee Slagers was calling for VAR in the WSL to, as she said, uphold justice in case, which is
So
a very
dramatic
way of putting it. So VAR has been used in like the later stages of some of our competitions like the FA Cup and the Champions League, but there's no plans at the moment to bring it into WSL. And I think there are basically kind of two issues here. Firstly, is VAR really the most important thing we need to concentrate on in terms of improving the women's football infrastructure?
Yeah.
And also, will it really solve all of the issues that we're talking about, or does it just create new issues?
I just don't think it's a priority. I think the main thing that needs to be addressing is the quality of refereeing in general, because to me, the main problem with introducing VAR to the women's game currently is that you're relying on the same referees.
Yeah, to make those decisions, having looked at it.
Yeah. So if we're saying the quality of refereeing in the women's game in the WSL is not good enough, let's bring in VAR and have it staffed with the referees who are not doing a good enough job in the WSL currently. That's what a lot of people dislike about its use in the Premier League. Is you've got the referees who are making bad decisions in the Premier League. Next week they're the VAR making bad decisions in VAR.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to really solve the root problem, which is that the quality of refereeing is just not high enough, and is like there's every week it feels like there's so many ridiculous errors.
And so is the refereeing issue, is that like a funding issue, or what is that? Because I feel like we've all been saying refereeing needs to improve for years.
So last season, this stat was released in January 2024. Last season, 20% of officials in the women's game were on contracts and able to concentrate on refereeing full time. But when you look specifically at the Women's Super League, it was half of the referees. Obviously, that is last season, so that's not the stats for this season. But yeah, there is not 100% professionalism across refereeing in the sort of top tiers of women's English football.
Yeah. I think, first of all, referees do need to be full-time. That seems like an obvious first step before you get into the pros and cons of VAR.
Yeah. We now have a top 2 leagues that are professional for players. Every player in WSL and WSL2 is a professional. So we should have the same standards, I think, for referees, and also we should be like giving referees that same opportunity to do the job that they enjoy doing full time, and not have to balance like multiple different ways of making a living.
It's a very important job, and it's like, as much as we all get absolutely fuming and pissed off at referees week in, week out, they are essential to the game, and they should be given the funding, given the opportunity to do the best job that they can do. I'm sure it's not nice for them either when they're making howlers every week and they're thinking,
no, exactly.
well, maybe if I did this full time, I would be better at my job. Like, I'm sure that people want to be better as well.
Maybe I would be better at my job.
No, but like, you're right. If I don't have to think about my other job, or like, I wanted to...
Or I've actually had enough hours to properly study this and like practice it. And then now suddenly I'm in this really high pressure situation, and I may get it wrong because I haven't been able to spend enough time thinking about it. But I think also, Jessie, what you're saying about we're then relying on someone who's like in the VAR booth or whatever making a decision, that's like would be so much worse in women's football, because it's already a huge issue in men's football, which is obviously massively resourced. Like, let's all not forget the afternoon we all became diehard Coventry fans. When football was robbed of like the ultimate fairy tale because of a really controversial VAR decision. And that would only be happening tenfold in the women's game.
My ideal setup of VAR across football is you have specialists who are not like on-pitch referees. It's a completely separate track, refereeing, and they watch any decision 3 times over in real time. If it's not clear and obvious, it's not clear and obvious, and that's it. Like, that would be my... I know there's probably like plenty of practicalities I've not considered, but like that would be what I would like to see VAR become. And if there's a world in which you can have that and those specialists work across men's and women's football, perfect. But currently we're talking about a game where, we don't have fully professional referees. We don't have goal line technology in, the WSL. And we're talking about VAR. And I think this kind of patchwork nature of some competitions have it, some competitions don't, some competitions will do it for the final.
It's not helpful.
It's not helpful because it gets seen as this like immediate fix of the situation when it's not gonna be. What we should be focusing on is like, okay, how can we empower referees and like better train referees and give them a better like environment to perform in? Because decisions like this, unfortunately, all they do is just sort of hand ammunition to like critics of women's football.
Yeah, exactly.
And pissed off fans when the decisions go against you. But they are. I mean, some of the decisions are baffling, and like the handball decision.
Oh, Jessie, you don't need to tell me.
Yeah,
the handball decision is just appalling on that Stina handball. That was.
I think it was the fact that she moved her arms.
Yeah.
So then the ref saw that she'd moved her arms. So then thought that must have been a handball, but she literally moved her arms out of the way.
What threw me, because I was like, I was watching it, like rewinding and replaying. I was like, is it the first one? Is it the second one? Which one is it she thinks? But then I was like, hang on. In front of her is Lucy Bronze, is Erin Cuthbert, is Millie Bright, is Niamh Charles, all who have eyes on her. You were telling me that if Stina Blackstenius handballed a ball and then scored, Erin Cuthbert wouldn't be up in arms immediately.
I do, Bronze did call for it, actually.
I'll be honest, I could not decide if that was Lucy Bronze calling for it or just kind of like throwing her body weight to
be fair,
to go
she
back.
She does throw her arms around a lot, doesn't she?
I was like, is it a balancing?
I thought that was her calling for it, but then equally maybe it wasn't. She is also the kind of player who will appeal for any decision.
Yeah. It was, to be honest, it was Erin Cuthbert. I was like, if Erin Cuthbert with eyes on that is not saying anything, I just don't feel like it was a handball.
Yeah. Not that you can obviously make a decision like that based on the players' reactions, but it's a clue.
Yeah, it does give you a hint to like, should you be looking at this, and for how long it took for them to decide.
Oh, that was appalling.
Had play restarted?
I don't know if play had restarted, but like
pretty
all
much.
Of the like it had, there had been a long period of celebration.
Yeah.
So like it had been a while.
Yeah.
It was crazy. I was just like, wow, blah 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 blah. No idea.
Yeah.
What happened from a fan in the stands perspective.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you just see the one
it rolled back to a
go
zero.
back to a zero on the scoreboard, and everyone was like, What happened?
Yeah. I also think that for the players, the kind of, and I'm not again just talking about this game because we've sat in here many times when there have been like absolutely terrible decisions.
I still have trauma over that penalty that
exactly. And the Manchester Derby one, like there's been so many, but imagine how frustrating that is for the players for it to just happen over and over and over again, and that affects the game as well.
If you take away all of the context of what we've spoken about referees going full time, like better training, better resources, I do think maybe in theory for me, I would like to see VAR in the women's game as well. I know it can be really, really annoying as a fan, but these decisions can be really annoying anyway. And then you have the example of Arsenal this weekend where the fans did celebrate, the players did celebrate, and then the goals were chalked off. So that's like what people always talk about hating about VAR is that you celebrate and then or you can't celebrate, or you can always celebrate a goal. And then it's shit if it gets chalked off, but like that can happen with or without VAR.
Yeah.
And I do think with good training it will help referees and it will help fairer decisions. Maybe fans, I don't think it will help their head loss.
No.
Because people will argue about any decision, whatever happens. Like, whether that's a refereeing decision on pitch, whether it's a VAR decision, there's always going to be human error. There's always going to be controversy. There's always going to be a difference in opinion. So, nightmare.
I think you're right, though, that bringing it in soon would feel like running before we can walk to a certain extent. And I think that if there's going to be resources concentrated somewhere, it should be on trying to increase the quality of refereeing rather than running to introduce VAR before we've really ironed out like the root of these issues.
Yeah. I guess the other perspective though is that obviously for the kind of skill and career development of referees in the women's game, that is a longer term project. Like you can inject cash into that, you can improve training, but it's not even remotely an overnight fix. Whereas VAR, also as we've said, it could work, it could not, but it would be something that you can put in place.
The other things, sort of infrastructure wise, would be whether all the grounds could bring it in.
Well, that's probably most of the problem. With it at the moment.
Yeah, you think about how many cameras are required for VAR.
I think that's what I mean. What I meant at the beginning in terms of infrastructure is that there are so many other things that players only got boot sponsors this season. Like they only got free boots this season from Nike because Nike stepped in for all the players that didn't have a boot sponsor. Like there's so much inequality in terms of what money there is in the teams. I would hate for some of that to start getting funneled into things like loads of cameras for VAR, or that kind of technology when they don't have a nutritionist, or they're having to pay for their own physio, whatever it is. I think that's what I mean. Like, I think that we are just not there. Like, that 4 teams are there. I think the other teams are not there to be able to implement that. There are so many other things that need to be financed and like sorted out and developed before we can start spending money on stuff like that, I think.
No, I think that's it's like a nice thing to have in the pipeline.
So it's not a no, but it's not right now.
Okay, guys, it's not a no. We'll consider.
Wow,
we'll continue to
screamers
consider.
have spoken. I hope you're listening, Nikki.